Aside from the fact that in your first great national television appearance, you were maybe the greatest supporting actor in the history of the Academy Awards, why did you really do it?
If they gave Oscars for the most outlandish supporting performance at an Academy Awards ceremony, and they probably ought to do this some year, Robert Opel would definitely have won it back in 1974. He, of course, was that relative nobody until he streaked naked, of course, past David Niven and a stunned nationwide television audience.
And now, to divulge the contents of this year's most important envelope, is a very important contributor to world entertainment, and someone, quite likely, well, ladies and gentlemen, that was almost bound to happen. But isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings.
Robert Opel is the man who streaked the Academy Awards several years ago, and therefore, in terms of showing one's pee-pee, as you put it, may have the most widely viewed one in the world.
That's right, yeah, that's true. 76 million people or something. Yeah. Once you see it, there's no reason to hide anymore. See, so.
He was not just running across the Oscar stage, just the way some kids run down the street.
The streaker, Robert Opel, was not arrested. He was instead brought backstage for the press to interview.
Can I speak for you? Oh, speak for you. Well, it's one of those one-time things.
It was a very thought-out, planned revolutionary act. Definitely, that's what it was. Yeah.
It all sounds very serious and very heavy, I guess, but part of it is to examine our attitudes about like who we are and what we look like, and how important is it if I come to you this afternoon and wearing green pants and this kind of shirt, or I don't have any clothes on at all. I mean, like, what does that really mean? I mean, how much information can you really transmit to each other on the basis of what you're wearing?
Here's the man who streaked the Academy Awards, Robert Opel. Was this a setup?
The press keeps asking that. Nobody believes that it wasn't set up.
Let's ask the studio audience, how did you feel? Do you feel that this was a setup thing and this man was able to do it? How many feel it was a setup? Applaud, please. How did you get into the awards? Did you have a tuxedo on when you came in?
No, I came in a jumpsuit, and I stayed in some place where I felt I was inconspicuous enough, and then I just took it off and went through the cyclorama.
Now, also the fact that David, had something to say about it immediately.
He thought that if there was going to be an ideal moment for someone to streak, it would be during the Oscar telecast, on the assumption that maybe there were to have been a streaker during the Academy Award show. He was prepared with a line.
Yeah, and a good
well,
line.
He said that he had prepared himself for different contingencies beforehand. He said that later.
I see.
That's not taking anything away from him.
What did you do afterwards? Right after you
after
you
streaked,
did people greet you afterwards?
I expected that they would seize me, but I got to the side of the stage when I was finishing, and everybody was so amazed. I was like frozen in time. They were just like that. And I just streaked past all of them, around back to the stage where I had left my clothes, put my clothes back on, and then some guy came over and says, "We want to talk to you."
I think it's also important to understand, my uncle just wasn't some schmuck. I mean, he was the president of the Student Congress. He won all kind of awards and contests. He was on the debate team, and he later went on to write speeches for Ronald Reagan, and then he was an English teacher.
And I was a teacher. I taught English as a second language.
But he was fired from that job after the Academy Awards number. Uncle Bob was actually born in East Orange, New Jersey in 1939. You know, he moved around a lot as a kid. He went to Canada. Back here, he went to Kansas and Kentucky for a while. And then the family moved right here in Pittsburgh. This house up here is where he settled down for a while. And this is where he went to grade school, high school, and off to college. This is the house right here. You know, this is the very house that my grandma had seen him streak the Oscars on the television.
Oh my God! Holy shit! Bob just ran naked across the Oscar stage!
My name is Oppel, his is Opel, and I was just wondering why he chose to drop one of the P's.
It had to do with changing it so that he was distancing his name from the rest of the family so it wouldn't be his mother and sister.
When I was 13 years old, I found these articles. This is actually the closet that I found these articles in, right down here. I was looking for an extension cord for a boombox in my room and instead found out about my uncle. He was like my namesake, you know, Robert Opel, seeing it next to words like gay activist and streaker of the Academy Awards and, you know, murdered. Naturally, I became very curious. So this is the basement of the house I grew up in. This is where all of Uncle Bob's belongings now reside. And this is really cool here. Like, these are all 3/4 videos.
Leo McElroy, though, tracked him down to find out whatever happened to Robert Opel.
Robert Opel is a California artist who has a unique expression. He streaked Liz Taylor at the Academy Awards, and his ass wound up on the front page of Le Monde, and he's been mediated for being ever since. He has fled to San Francisco, where he's now working on a film and putting together his own sexually oriented magazine.
He was a photographer. His company was called Ideas Photographic, and he photographed for The Advocate, Finger magazine. He had sections in these magazines. One was called Around Town, the other was called Cruising, and they normally were humorous type scenarios or settings with political undertones.
It's one of the reasons why I loved him, because he was a functioning photographer in the 70s when I kept running into photographers who didn't photograph because they were out fucking, painters who didn't paint because they were out fucking, and so on. But he was somebody who could live a life of art and sex and still produce.
I was the editor of a magazine for a while called Finger, which dealt with people's sexual trips. The whole gamut, everything. I mean, like, there wasn't any division between the heterosexual trip and the so-called homosexual trip.
Yeah.
You know, like now there's the homosexual press and the heterosexual press.
Right.
Very separated.
Yeah.
But I saw that as an interesting trip because everybody shared themselves sexually. It was written by the readers. People would write in letters and say, these are my sexual experiences, and they would send in photographs of themselves.
Of course, would be the ultimate to streak the president's news conference.
I don't.
While he's,
you wouldn't dare.
While he was saying, "I have nothing to hide."
And I think he liked being in the limelight, and he enjoyed the attention, from others. But he also wasn't totally selfish. I mean, I know he cared a great deal about others. I know he felt very strongly about his friend Camille O'Grady and her career. That was very important to him, to see that she succeed.
So my uncle, as well as being a gay activist, also he had a girlfriend, and her name was Camille O'Grady. She was an artist back then, and a musician and a singer.
Was this before Christmas in '78, Robert Mapplethorpe had told me that I should look Robert Opel up. I went over there, made an appointment with him, went over one afternoon, and I guess we spent like 5 hours talking, just like, it was one of those, and everything happened very fast. I'd never lived with anybody before. I was, kind of fiercely independent, and so he was the first person I lived with, kind of a like nature that way. Robert was very active politically and loved to outrage people politically.
Mr. Penis is a piece of sculpture I created for an exhibition I had at a gallery in Los Angeles. I see my body as indispensable to my art form.
The Mr. Penis thing was really early on. The Gay Political Association was trying desperately to appear normal. So for Robert to show up as a penis was really threatening to everyone.
And my motive in creating him, besides thinking it would be just a hell of a lot of fun showing up at public gatherings dressed as a giant cock, resulted from an obsession that I saw in the society on genitals. Sex on an individualized personal level had been suppressed for so long that society fixated on the sexual organs. By the way, I created a partner for Mr. Penis, Virginia Vagina, who I also became and become from time to time. So by becoming these characters, I hope to enhance an alternative sensibility of where genitals are less emphasized, where people relate affectionately and lovingly to other people, not exclusively to their cocks or cunts. Overemphasis to de-emphasize.
It's hard sometimes to use words to put people in categories and so on, but I do call myself gay or homosexual because I have given myself permission to love other men, and the artists that I show in my space do deal with those images, but as you say, it's just a convenient thing so people can understand better about what you're doing and how, what images you use, but you don't have to necessarily be limited by all those categories. It's just words that help people understand about things.
And I wanted to discuss the concept of being gay and also being an artist. But I'd like to talk to some of the other people here and see how they feel about this. Next to me is Lee Mensley. There was a huge debate within the community about using the term gay art. Because art is art. I mean, is because Michelangelo was gay, does that mean David was gay?
Gay to me is a social term that deals with this spirit that's uplifting and exciting and shows maybe more of the colorful and frivolous aspects of life. But I don't think that art in itself can be gay.
Well, what's gay art? If Robert Mapplethorpe and a straight woman set their cameras up side by side and both of them shot a nude male model, Robert Mapplethorpe's photograph would be gay art. Hers would just be art.
It's kind of cool to still have some of the things that belong to my uncle. Like this is that hat that was in that one picture. And this right here is St. Anthony. He was a regular at Fayway Studios.
Bob Opel operates the Fayway Gallery on Howard Street in San Francisco. Could you give us the address and the hours, Bob?
1287 Howard Street, and I'm open from noon until 8.
1287 Howard. That's
Howard.
The corner of 9th.
Yeah.
We were doing similar things. He was showing gay art at Fayway. I was showing gay art at Art for Art's Sake. Lee Mentley was showing something similar at the Hula Palace.
I think that's why both of us ended up having our own galleries, because we really loved to present and show people other points of view and what was going on in the art world that you would not see in any downtown gallery, but what was really coming up off of the edge.
And Robert had his own way of judging art for his gallery. When I brought out some samples of my work that first time, Robert started jacking off to them. And since the pictures made him come, they were included in Fayway Studios' opening group show, along with works by Chuck Arnett and Robert Mapplethorpe.
But in San Francisco, when you're putting up Mapplethorpe and you're putting up these guys, I mean, before they become, New York Times fashionable, back in that time, it was like the sex and the drugs and the gangsters, and it was all one thing. It was like real deal art world.
And there were so many really very talented, interesting artists that he exhibited. There was never a dull exhibition at the Fayway. It was always something shocking, surprising, something that you had really never seen before,
And I went to Fayway, and met some of the artists. Bill Bowers was showing there at the time. Douglas Farmer, an enormous talent, was showing there. Robert Mapplethorpe, Camille O'Grady. He knew who he wanted to show. He knew who to bring into his studio. It was brilliant. I think he was absolutely embraced by the gay culture.
The only galleries that gay people had before Robert Opel opened this were basically bars, because bars would hang different murals, different paintings, different artwork that people would bring in and kind of have revolving shows on their walls to help entertain the customers. And so that was about the only place where somebody could show their work, but he gave a legitimate space. And of course they were floored because gay art was being taken seriously for the first time in this country. But they could go there and actually be lionized and meet fans, and they could be present and watch the reaction of the people at the openings. And he threw great openings.
Hello. Yes. Oh, Bo, I can't talk right this moment. I'm talking to Robert Oppel's nephew. He lived in the space, so he would also rent his house, space out, or give up his space for clubs from New York or anywhere that would come visiting, like golden shower parties and fist-fucking parties and motorcycle club parties. And so everyone knew him in the Southern Market because of that one of the reason. Every time it would be packed.
My space is a place where I showcase artists who deal with sexual images, and the artists that I show in my space do deal with those images. I always felt that artsy somehow is out of the realm of the area where you can come down on that and say, well, you can't show this because this is pornography, which is of course an absurd idea anyway. But that was created by the courts to sort of indicate an area that wasn't protected by the First Amendment because it dealt with sex exclusively. You had to have some other kind of redeeming social quality. You couldn't just be into sex for sex because you had to do it for some other reason, which is idiotic. But art sort of transcends that, puts it in a sort of an enshrined category. My feeling is that anything should be seen anyway, that censorship is absurd.
It was pretty radical what they were doing and who they were exhibiting.
When you went into the gallery, men there, you would see them wearing anything from full dress leathers to a medical straitjacket.
What looked like one thing to a group of people or to a particular commune of artists was an entirely different experience for other groups. And Robert was, like myself, interested in all of it. And so we were very welcome wherever we went because I think we were non-threatening and we were really curious and interested in the art and what was being created because the art was exciting, which means it was in tune with its time. And of course, that always frightens the establishment. And without controversy, just like good theater, if you don't have conflict...
You feel that? That's my gun.
There is no theater.
And that type of theater was something similar to what we were doing with the nudity, with the performance art on the streets and bringing it into an establishment and letting people see it.
The Cockettes were gaining popularity in San Francisco at the time, and they were really, really good.
Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, no, no.
What are you doing here?
I'm getting paid for this.
Paid for it? Well, I hope you see something you like.
You leave her alone or I'm gonna call the police. I am the police, and we've got orders to rough you up.
So my uncle also worked with the late Divine. Many people know from the John Waters films, but my uncle produced a play that Divine was in. It was called The Heartbreak of Psoriasis.
okay? This is Bob Opel, the Robert of Sanborn Avenue, coming to you today from the Fayway Studios. And we are extraordinarily fortunate to have with us the divine.
People say eat shit and go fuck yourself. I've done both of those.
Don't you think that the idea that somebody like you, given your appearance and your performance and all of that sort of thing, can become a star? I mean, that says something very significant about the culture, about what's coming down now. And don't you think it's a fairly new idea, a fairly radical idea, that one's sexual identity doesn't have to be so fixed?
I mean, people classify looking at like outrageous, let's say, or very bizarre, and that just makes it a lot easier to put things across. I mean, I don't know. I feel that I can say anything or do anything. I don't feel restricted, and I feel very hot.
So my mother, who has done some interesting things herself, she says to me, "I thought you were making a serious documentary about my brother." And you know, I didn't know how much more serious I could get. I'm staying in San Francisco. It's the first time I was ever there. I'm staying with the original members of the Cockettes. It's like, of course I'm going to get into drag. Hi, I'm Robert Opel, and we are here at Fayway Studios. We're here with Deanna Dick.
Well, my mother's gone. You know, when I was a kid, I put her makeup on, you know, while they were gone, and I thought they didn't know about it, but eventually my mother told me to get my own makeup, you know, stay out of hers. How does a kid buy makeup in the suburbs, you know? You can't. The things that we did in those days that were so liberating and changing, you know, the world was changed by this, basically. I mean, the streaking, it really was. I remember watching that as a teenager and thinking it was great, you know. Everyone loved it. Nowadays, he'd be a terrorist.
Well, of course, you do explore in the cinema themes that are not usually explored. So you're telling me that you don't see another sort of sociological level to the films. I mean, you don't regard yourself in some kind of way as being a social critic.
Well, I guess, yeah. But I'm not setting out, that is not my purpose when I sit down and make a film, say I'm going to disguise all these messages into this kind of film. So I guess whenever you make a movie, you're saying something, you wouldn't make it.
Apparently my uncle made a film.
Do you have any information of that on that film?
All I've got is the stuff that was on these Ektachrome things, and a lot of these, like, I opened them and they were just like dust, because the film was just so old it deteriorated. You know, I'm going to reenact my interpretation of what I feel that film would have been. I mean, if you can't show the real thing, I'm gonna reenact it, and I'll just do it myself.
Can you fucking believe it? Tonight comes a man the police call a sex pirate, Robert Opel. Thank you for coming on my show.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Now, you're the proprietor of a sex paraphernalia shop?
Well, that's what the cops like to call it. It's more of a gallery. It's called Fayway.
Interesting. Now, I understand that Robert Mapplethorpe and Tom fucking Finland displays their work at your very space. So what the fuck can we expect to see next from you?
Freedom.
Fuck freedom, from what?
From sexual restraint and from anything that puts anything in any kind of a mold or structure.
In the American dream.
No man knows the day nor the hour.
It seems to me that if people took off their clothing, they wouldn't be so hung up about these sexual things, you know? They would kind of relate to people on a different level, what's inside.
The nudity thing was a very powerful statement. It's something that was in your face, turned people off or on, depending on who you were.
There was also somewhat of an attraction, I think, to what my uncle did. I mean, I've done a few interesting things in the nude.
Robert Opel. His uncle Bob, Robert Opel, is best known for streaking the Academy Awards. And would you like to say something about Uncle Bob?
I'd like to just thank all the artists here simply for being who you are. I'd also like to bring up really quickly the fact that if I were to go outside right now, I would be arrested.
It was almost a year ago that Opel followed his Oscar streak with a second burst of public exposure. The scene was City Hall, a debate over nudity on the beaches, and Bob Opel made his move behind an astonished police chief, Ed Davis.
While the Los Angeles City Council was holding a hearing on nude beaches, he walked nude up to Police Chief Ed Davis and asked if they thought he was indecent.
The City Council was debating the question of nudity in the abstract, and it seemed to me that it would provide a valuable service for them if they could actually see what a nude person indeed looked like in the flesh, as it were.
He spent 4 months in the slammer as a result of that caper.
He stripped away all uniforms, all clothing, and peeling himself naked, showed his penis, the most forbidden thing in Western culture. And they freaked out, because they knew behind the gay movement there was dick.
That's what it was. I mean, he was one of the first performance artists that was making a political statement just by being a performance artist.
Nude but not lewd.
I was accused not of streaking, but of being lewd and indecent.
Well, after that, anything Bob Opel did was bound to be an anticlimax. I caught up with him in the course of moving into an apartment in Hollywood where he hopes to get into producing videotapes. We perched on cushions on the floor to talk. He had clothes on this time. And I had to ask, why did he streak?
How do you reach out to somebody like that? I mean, so, you take your pants off. It sounds absurd. It is absurd.
I mean, I don't think anything your uncle did was a joke. I mean, I think everything he did was a thought out political statement, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like gay, straight, whatever. My uncle was a sex liberator. I miss him.
Well, he's very creative and very outspoken, and he was a very good person in that, he would help anybody that needed it. He was an easy touch in a way, but not like, that's what he chose to do, you know what I mean?
Robert was an anarchist. I saw him as an anarchist. I think a lot of people did. And as far as his political persuasion, we thought it was to the left, of course, but it kind of went beyond that. I mean, I would put in a category of definitely anti-establishment. I mean, we were all anti-establishment, but Robert took it further.
Robert had his finger on the pulse. He actually, he did. It was brilliant. I think he was absolutely embraced by the gay culture.
He was definitely his own man. He also very much danced on the edge. He dared things to happen.
The first time I met Robert, he came into Harvey Milk's camera store where I worked as a clerk, and he asked for Harvey, and I was the first line of defense, so I authentically responded that Harvey wasn't there. So Robert presented me with what he wanted to present to Harvey Milk, a color Xerox of one of his friends and his models. And she had a Harvey Milk for Supervisor pin pierced through her breast. And that was his way of introducing himself to Harvey Milk. And he literally handed it to me, and I looked at it, and I was kind of horrified. I was really sort of green around the ears when it comes to piercing. And really, I mean, my first impression was kind of terrible. I thought he was really sort of, intense and sleazy.
So this is my uncle's journal, and then here is the artist Christina McCabe, who had displayed her work at Fairway Studios.
This is the photo that Dan Nicoletta was speaking of. It's kind of cool, you know. This was his journal.
In the spring of 1979, Robert came over one afternoon, and he was thinking of starting another publication that he wanted to call Cocksucker.
Anyway, there was this girl named Flash, which told me that Robert was planning to put out a zine called Cocksucker. And it was one of the first zines that ever existed. She said that Robert wanted somebody to do a cartoon. I decided that I would do a cartoon that was a takeoff on the Carrie movie. And instead of Carrie the girl, I put in Barry the boy. And his mother was going to be Anita Bryant. And if you remember that during those years, Anita Bryant was spearheading an anti-gay campaign.
They are disgusting. They are deviants. They should be taken off the face of this earth. These homosexuals should not be here with us. We are good Christians. These homosexuals should be made into juice. Rid the world of their filthy pulp. At least it's a fruit pie.
It's all right, sister. We'll pray for him.
The gay times, the fun times that we had really changed when we were politically attacked by Anita Bryant. Right after Anita Bryant, there was a huge increase in gay bashing and attacks on the gay community.
The society seems to be very violent, and there seems to be all this undercurrent of violence in the society.
I have to walk down the streets almost every day. I walk the streets in fear that I'm going to be attacked, because I do. I get attacked on the street. If I try to dress butch, I still get attacked. I have been attacked when I was dirty, filthy, covered with paint. You know, it doesn't make any difference what I wear or what I do. It's just something about me that I guess these people, you know, feel they have to attack.
I did have respect, you know, when they would like bash the gay bashers back then. I mean, these were guys with balls.
You couldn't really wear a dress or an outlandish costume and walk down the street or go to and from different bars and stay a sissy for very long. So you had to be able to protect yourself. And one of the things I used to do was I played brass flute. And I always kept it up a dress sleeve or whatever I had. And this way, if anybody did start, you know, bothering me or calling, all I had to do was raise my arm real fast, and somebody got knocked for a loop. I remember hitting a fireman upside the head with it once, and then running as fast as I could in heels.
Something very, very evil and very, very bad broke the surface of the culture war in the 70s with Anita Bryant in Florida going after gay people, and with John Briggs in California going after gay teachers.
This performance was presented at the Mabu High. For a benefit for no on Proposition 6. This is a proposition that is on the ballot in California, where people are voting on whether or not to allow people who are called homosexuals to be able to teach in the schools. You know, I felt in some ways that because the educational system seems to me to be totally irrelevant, that it's not a bad thing if the homosexuals left the schools, maybe. What do you think about that?
I see at this point that there's a power struggle that's going on between homosexuals and heterosexuals all across this nation and perhaps all across the world. We're being attacked through the legal system. We're being attacked physically out on the streets. We are involved in a power structure here, and we have to fight back.
And this began a very ugly time in the community, because we were now being targeted for just being who we were. And a lot of people were discovering what it was like to be gay or to be a homosexual. because a lot of the people who were straight, who were having just as much fun as we were now being attacked for being gay because they might look a little different.
What happened was that the culture war, the moral majority, those people inflamed and set a climate in play that allowed gay bashing to be okay. And in a sense, Dan White pulled off the ultimate gay bashing of Harvey Milk and the gay sympathizer, Mayor Moscone.
And of course, Harvey Milk was rising to power. He had run several campaigns and finally was elected to the position of supervisor in San Francisco. And Mayor Moscone, who had been a state legislator, was elected as mayor, and he was very friendly and very supportive of civil rights for gay people. And so there was sort of a safe haven in San Francisco, but there was also the old guard.
San Francisco was a sanctuary city where refugees from all across America came to get away from repression and to express themselves. That kind of upset San Francisco just a little bit because it was changing the nature of the city.
So Harvey Milk was he was a gay activist, but he was elected supervisor by George Moscone, who was the mayor of San Francisco at this particular time, and he passed the gay civil rights bill, which naturally outraged people like homophobic ex-cop Dan White, who waltzed right into City Hall and gunned down Harvey Milk and George Moscone, and got 5 years for it, claiming the Twinkie defense because of the rush of the sugar that he had eaten some Twinkies prior to these two murders that he committed.
I don't know. Something just came over me. Maybe it was from the sugar I just eaten and shot him.
The Dan White verdict came in on May 21st, 1979, with the Twinkie defense giving him a very light tap on the wrist because he had been high on junk food and therefore was not responsible for his actions, as if he had diminished capacity because of eating Twinkies. Well, that set San Francisco into a riot.
Of course, all outraged that Dan White got 5 years for, going and just gunning these people down.
We all watched the news coverage of the White Night riots. And we watched as gays rioted in front of City Hall and torched an overturned cop car.
City Hall had almost been burnt down, and then the police retaliated by sweeping through the Castro district and raiding bars. It was a very tense scene.
And there I was the next night, and the street is closed, and there's this honoring of Harvey's birthday, and there's all these performers coming forward.
This is a benefit tonight for the defense of the 28 people that were arrested in the riot at the City Hall after the Dan White verdict was announced. Actually, I think that the thrust of the whole thing probably should be to get the charges dropped completely against the people, because it may be time to end this sort of cycle of violence. Maybe they get the message downtown, maybe they won't, I don't know.
We knew immediately that it was Dan White because he confessed. But the questions always arose as to how did he get into City Hall with a gun? Why were there more than usual amount of uniformed police officers all over the building that day? These were questions that were brought up by the media. And of course, this fueled all of the rumors. And of course, Robert was just as curious as everyone else. And so he began writing all of these things down. And it seemed like the more we tried to find out, the more threats we got. But he continued to collect that information and to write a script for a play that he wanted to do at the following Gay Day.
There had been advertising for that parade that Robert Opel was going to go to Civic Center and he was going to be dressed up, Robert Opel was going to dress up as Gay Justice and have a friend of his dressed up as Dan White, and Gay Justice was going to execute Dan White in the Civic Center Plaza.
So what the fuck can we expect to see next from you?
The execution of Dan White. What I have here is the flyer my uncle created for his mock execution of Dan White. It says, what would happen if a queer, gay, homosexual, pervert, cocksucker shot and killed an ex-cop? Would he get away with murder? Robert Opel and Theodore Rhinoceros invite you to a pseudo-event, the execution of Dan White. My uncle was warned by the police not to do this, and he did it anyway.
The police had threatened the parade committee and that there would indeed be a severe amount of trouble if we continued with that particular piece of work. Robert was threatened. Robert was told that if he did it, he would be murdered.
I think that they were scared of him because he was so good at getting publicity.
They were not used to gay people fighting back, and so whoever fought back got targeted. We were then identified, and we received an awful lot of threats, and Robert did too, because Robert, would fight back.
That was May 24th, and Robert Opel had threatened to do this piece of forbidden performance art.
This gentleman here slightly resembles that of Dan White. We will now execute him. And we're clear.
Not everyone was all that pleased that Robert did that piece of agitprop theater, primarily because, not that people didn't feel they had the right to do it, it's just that the town was so raw and everyone's nerves were just, right on the edge.
After that, everything moves into myth and legend. Did it happen? Who was there? What actually happened? But what is true is that it was, 10 days, 12 days later, when Robert Opel was murdered in his gallery.
It's like I'm not just some angry youth here. It's like somebody in my family was fucking murdered. And that's why I am doing this, because I need to feel what he felt so that I can understand what happened.
I'm not afraid to die, really.
I'd just be frightened, but I'd want to live as much as I could until I went, I guess.
I think I would become a lot more worldly as far as just living life as such.
The night that it happened, Anthony and I both ended up at the Oasis, which was a club down on Folsom Street, and it just opened that night. And I just got this feeling, and I said, Anthony, let's go back to the house. I've got a very weird feeling, and I think we need to go back to the house.
I want drugs and I want money. Band them up.
Anthony forced his camera on them.
I don't want your camera! What are you doing? Down. We're not violent people.
Get me the drugs and get me the money.
Robert decided, obviously, to hold his ground.
We offered what we had, okay? Get out of my space.
Did you hear me? I said get the drugs and get the money.
Robert was getting angry. He said, well, get out of my space. There's nothing for you here. And
get out of my space.
This is for Dana. So you give me the drugs and give me the money. Dana told me. So you give me the drugs and give me the money.
Get out of my space!
Opel, get the drugs and get the money now, or I'm gonna blow that little head off of yours.
Guess you're gonna have to. It's like somebody in my family is fucking murdered, man, and I want to know why, and I can't find it out. I have never been able to be comfortable with this information. It seems like in San Francisco in the late 70s, if you were an artist or a truth teller of any kind, you were silenced.
He says, Robert Opel is dead. He was murdered last night. And he told me that I needed to be very careful because I was on the list. And that it was intended that I also be taken out.
But I remember after he was murdered, I went there. And so everybody told me that I was next. And my living room was very accessible. And so I went home and hid for like 2 weeks because I thought they were going to come after me next.
And I spent probably the next 6 weeks living in abandoned hotels until I could find a way to ensure my security and my safety.
In all cases, we operated under the assumption that, it was relatively safe to live a maverick lifestyle and to be as free and as open as we were.
Unfortunately, Robert ended up almost like a sacrificial lamb being slaughtered for no good reason at all, other than his desire to pursue the truth and to use art as that vehicle to pursue that truth. And you're murdered for that in a country that's supposed to be based on freedom of expression and freedom of thought.
The shepherd is with you. You see, he takes the fear away. If you're not alone, you're not afraid.
So hard to get in touch with people from this time period. They had these one-syllable, hippie kind of names, or they're dead,
Hello?
Hi, is Camille there?
This is she.
Hey, how you doing? It's Robert.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good. It's good to finally hear your voice. Yeah, thank you so much, Camille.
Last time I saw you, heard about you were like 3 months old, I think.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to be such a trip to meet Camille. I mean, I have only heard things and seen pictures, but to actually physically sit across from her and to, see what went on. I mean, she was there the night of the murder. She was my uncle's girlfriend, I mean, I'm excited to see what she has to say.
So this will be a trip going to the gallery. Or
How long has it been since you've been there?
Has been about at least 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah. It just so happened they were having an open house that day.
Wow.
So I'm curious to see what will happen when we get down there this time. This is always some kind of strange synchronicity does happen.
Yeah, especially with both
the two of us.
Yeah.
I know. If there's a person that would definitely, kind of jump back in, if he could, it would be him. And I'm sure that he's like really guiding you in a good way, not a bad way at all.
Yeah, I feel it.
very different. Extremely. This whole room was absolutely bare because it was a gallery room. Now it would be up where there'd be artwork on the walls, and there was like some nice wooden chairs in the middle of the room.
So what was this area back here?
This was my little special place. I had I used to have a recording thing set up in that closet.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's come over here for me. Let's see this. So this is where he was shot, like right in here?
He was right there. Right here. You know, like he was, because you could tell they were right, you know, real close to each other. It was like, boom, smash. So you knew that he fell right away, so it was a real point-blank shot.
And where did he fall?
Right where I'm standing.
That clearly happened. That's how it went down. That's how it was, you know, written up about, you know, and documented. There's all this information that was compiled already thus far. And now this is my interpretation. The information that you didn't see, that you didn't read about, that wasn't on the internet and all that crap. I think there's two versions of how my uncle was killed. And, you know, the popular version would be that these guys had a relationship. They were dealing drugs together. My uncle owed him a great deal of money, all the shit that the internet says. And I mean, okay, but everyone that said that is a media person. And those who were there, either physically or there in the time period, you know, yeah, my uncle did drugs, and so did a lot of people back then. And that's not really an issue into his death, you know? And then, you know, the other theory is that the police could have been involved.
Kill! 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 Kill!
Do you feel that this murder is kind of unsolved? I mean, yeah, we got the killer, but
Yes.
the motive for it?
Very, 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 very much. That involved a lot of subterfuge that nobody would know about. I just happened to be there. And what it looked like, it was not. And people would come over, knock on the door, you know, and Robert would always be, you know, good to people, to the point where I was worried about the wrong person showing up too, because, you know, how the word travels on things like that. What happened was that there's this guy that used to come by.
Hey, Robert Opel. Railway Studios, right?
And his name was Dana. And he was somebody who had, I guess, you know, been a known pharmaceuticals dealer. And he was a very nice-looking, well-mannered guy, and good-looking, and rode a motorcycle. And I just got, the first time he came over to our house, I got this horrible, like, all my alarms went off in the worst way. And I said to Robert, I said, I don't know what's wrong about this guy, but if you have to see him, don't have him in the house. Something's really wrong about him. How he figures in the story is that those people came in saying this is for or from Dana.
This is for Dana, so you give me the drugs and give me the money. Dana told me, so you give me the drugs and give me the money.
I know in the trial transcripts that I've read, the name Dana Coleman comes up in the transcripts.
Right.
And I don't know who Dana Coleman is or what he did, but is this the person you might be referring to?
New evidence has come to light with the court transcripts. This was a capital case, and for a very long time these transcripts were not available, and somebody somewhere has now posted them online. So I've read further on into the fact of what Camille has told me and shared with me about this Dana character, who I still firmly believe set up the murder of my uncle. And in here it says that Kelly, the accomplice of Maurice Keenan, had said the robbery attempt had been set up by a Dana Chalman, who told them that the gallery was a drug den and that they should ask for drugs or money.
Listen, yo, Maurice, listen, man, we just got burned, all right? I just got burned. Who burned? This cat over here at this Railway Studios, man, Robert Opel. He's some art dealer, you know, queer. He says he don't got the money, man. He says give him some time. I know he's lying. That's who's got your money.
It's all right, Dad.
Get up. Okay, wake up. Start the car now.
And this thing smells of an informer. I really felt that once I talked to her.
And that's the freaky thing. Like, who is this Dana guy? Is he dead?
Yeah.
And if he's alive, then what's his real name? Because everybody went by like one name back then.
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
It sounds like he was a snitch.
Now, here's like the court transcripts for Robert Kelly, who was the accomplice. Linda Holt was the driver, who was the girlfriend of Maurice Keenan. Do you, Linda Holt, take Maurice Keenan to be your husband, to have and to hold and to commit armed robbery with?
I do.
Well, I now pronounce you man and wife, till death.
We're a killer couple, baby.
But then also, I remember my mother telling me when she went into the police in San Francisco after Robert was murdered, they had like boxes with all the things from the crime scene, the belongings and shit like that, and the cops wrote homicide instead of homicide, But I'm sure they had nothing to do with it.
You want me to eat this, motherfucker? Take her back to her cell. I want you to know, first of all, personally, how terrible I feel about this whole thing that has happened. I'm very, very sorry. My condolences. Also, I'd like you to know that everything is being done that's possible to reprimand the officers responsible for this mishap. And I personally I'm disgusted about this whole thing. It's caused me a lot of pain, personally.
Your mom was sitting there next to me when we found out who Dana really was. The third time I was in the homicide office, in he walks. And I said, what's the deal? That's Dana. And kind of gets on his knees in front of me and goes, oh, I'm so sorry about what happened. He goes, I'm the one who sawed off the shotgun that Kelly had, and they thought that they had gotten burned by your house. In other words, he walked out of our house knowing that that guy would come back, because he's a real nasty piece of work.
This is an unusual situation here we're faced with.
No, answer the question. That guy Dana, he's with you, right?
No.
Answer the question!
Lower your voice, ma'am.
The question!
Just trust me. Trust me on this. I need him for my reasons.
Homicide, is that a joke?
What are you talking about?
On the box, the evidence box, it says homicide.
It's semantics. It doesn't mean anything. It's a nonsense. I don't know what that is. Homicide, homicide, what? What can I say?
This is a joking matter.
No, this is not a joking matter. I'm very serious about this. I hate faggots. Conform or be shot.
Stop it! Stop it!
He grew up with his mother in Pittsburgh, right?
He's my mother's brother, and
The relationship between his mother and her brother.
I always felt odd bringing it up to her or asking her about him because it was very painful for her based on his murder,
And especially when the guy got out of jail, whatever. There's a lot of very interesting pieces to it, you know what I mean?
I began to build up kind of a frustration within me, not being able to communicate with my mom and my grandma about my uncles. So one day I demanded their attention to it. I did it in a roundabout kind of way because I was a little kid, I was 13, so I did it in the form of almost like a play.
First witness is called to stand.
I pretended I was this little judge, and I sat them down and I said, you know, why do you think this murder was committed?
About this murder, who did you think did it? Order! I want order! Order now! Second witness called to the stand. Left hand on the Bible, right hand raised. Say, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I don't think there's anything funny, second witness. Left hand, right hand up in the air. Wrong. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Nothing but the truth, so help me God.
What weapon do you think was used in this murder?
I think it was the gun.
I would like to communicate the frustration in communication with what is called the justice system or the legal system. In this folder here I have letter upon letter that my mother has communicated to police chiefs, council people, district attorneys. You know, my uncle was murdered in 1979, and it took 3 years for it to go to trial. And, you know, and Maurice Keenan, his killer, has also escaped 3 times. Another strange thing that's probably just another coincidence is that Maurice Keenan escapes from prison on 3 separate occasions, one of which he walks out in plain clothes.
Keenan was in jail for like maybe 72 hours. He walked out wearing street clothes.
Now we're gonna leave some clothes for you, some plain clothes for you, in that outer hallway over there. After you change, you go down through those doors and off to freedom.
This case has been a very crazy case.
I know.
I mean, you know the story of like, you know, they caught the kids. So they caught him and put him in the jail in downtown San Francisco, and then actually left the jail door open. So good old Maurice, you know, could just walk right out. He walked right out of the jail into the street, and you know, and disappeared.
Another strange occurrence is during the trial. Maurice Keenan, the killer of my uncle's attorney, had approached my mother to offer her his condolences, and he chose to use that moment to put a crumpled up piece of paper in my mother's hand when she shook it, and that piece of paper was a letter from Maurice to my mother. Alright, so check this out. This is the letter from Maurice Keenan to my mother in the courtroom, and listen to what he says here. If someday you feel you are strong enough to want to know what really happened, I will tell you. What really happened? You know, during a trial. Because it seems to me, by the way the guy's communicating with me and the way he communicated with my mother back then, that he is, yes, guilty of killing someone, but it seems like he didn't really, you know, have a strong, passionate desire to kill my uncle. So it brings me to wanting to communicate with Maurice. You know, Linda, Robert, whatever. Maurice Keenan is the guy I want to talk to, the trigger man. And I've written 3 letters here to him, and I got denied visitation. It seems like every door that opens that could lead to an answer to some form of truth with it just gets slammed shut on me. Okay, here we go.
no longer available. Operator assistance is no longer available. Please listen carefully as operator assistance is no longer available. To leave a message, wait for the tone.
It seems like why is the most difficult question to answer. And why was I denied any access at all to visit this inmate?
Because you're the victim's relative and you're, I think, something about writing a book or something?
I don't feel that I'm threatening them in any way as much as I'm just explaining my frustration of what has happened to me here and to my family. There's no communication ever, you know? Somebody in my family was murdered and the reason why I don't know. And it seems like that is the hardest information to obtain and it's driving me fucking nuts. You know, calling this person, calling that person, filling out this visitor questionnaire. Homicide, hello, how are you? Homicide! Power, truth, lies. Power, truth, lies. We don't care about justice. Just give them a story that people will buy. Order, yeah, you want order? We don't fucking care about justice. Fucking justice? Just give them a story that people will buy. I'm trying to be like positive. I'm trying to not be, you know, this angry young youth. But I gotta be honest, man, I'm pissed off. So now the prison system has denied me for what I believe to be the final time here. This time I've been deemed a security risk in a maximum security prison. It seems that my reasons for denial keep changing. So this is where Uncle Bob's buried here, Queen of Heaven Cemetery, Pittsburgh, PA. This right here is a little insignia my mom chose to put on it. This was actually a little thing that he had, a symbol on a necklace that he wore. So that's the most information I could come up with to portray Uncle Bob's life and death. So Maurice Keenan, Robert Kelly, Linda Holt, Dana Chalman, the cop that wrote homicide on the evidence box, the guy that called my mom in the middle of the night, whomever sent me that interesting email, all the cops, DAs, and private investigators who aren't willing to speak with me about my uncle's murder. Maybe one of you people can end my film. Until then, this is the best I could do. I love you, Uncle Bob.
I am inspired to sing something here that is particularly appropriate right now. I'm streaking in the rain, just streaking in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm streaking again. You must have been a beautiful streaker. You must have been a beautiful child. When you were only starting to go to kindergarten, I'll bet you drove the little boys wild. Here's my favorite. I'm just streaking along with the breeze. It's 20 below. I think I might freeze. Hello, young streakers, wherever you are. I hope your troubles are few. Although I don't wear it when I'm on this show, I've got a suit like you. Run the unrunnable route to brave the unbearable cold, to strip with your last ounce of courage, to streak the impossible streak.
The whole point of this film is to not only celebrate the life of my uncle, but also, you know, put him to rest. I mean, let's put Uncle Bob to rest respectfully.
You know, it just shows you what the guy was hardcore. He was a real deal. I mean, he was somebody that you have to, you know, he's like a hero. I mean, a hero to me.
His stint on the Academy Awards, I thought, was a brilliant piece of street theater that he brought into the establishment.
I mean, if we hadn't been the drag queens and the artists and the street people, I think today these people would still be in the closet.
You know, he also very much danced on the edge. He dared things to happen.
Yeah, he was being a rascal, but an extreme rascal.
I couldn't proceed not liking him because he responded to an image with really sort of authentic discourse about it, and you know, just was really genuine in that moment.
He was such a prankster. You know, he liked to do crazy. That's why his gallery was so successful, and because he let people be themselves.
A trickster, a renegade, a bit of a clown, very in your face. You know, your uncle had a style all of his own.
He was somebody who was in the swim of what that decade was about, and he did it as somebody who knew what was valuable in art and in humanity.
And I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to relive those times.
I'm here to talk to people and just generally get their reactions and try to find out what they think of the film, why they're here, what their reactions in general are. So let's talk to a few of the people. What do you think of the film? You're talking to the camera. Yes.
So, like, the youth should not be ashamed of this, nor should the father of his brother.
You're gonna play the father?
No. Nor the boy. I'm gonna play the uncle in the flashback.
Oh, yeah, right. You're gonna play the uncle, right?
Talk to me. What did you think of the film? Talking to the camera. I thought it was wonderful. It was about time that we got to see a movie that was real.
Okay, so what's important here is that the timing is very bam, 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 like it was last time. Now, the most important thing here is to not anticipate this pie. So many times in films you see them give you a punch or thrown or whatever.
In other words, you're trying to get that point across about the pigs, right?
What did you think of the film?
How are we on sound? Are we good on sound?